the devil.
But now you mentioned something about politics, and we're talking about the community here. I mean, how involved are the people of your community in the politics of this country, and why is that so important?
Well, let me back up a little bit and just give you a little more background.
Okay.
So the Nation of Islam gets established here in Atlanta as a African American self-help group that is regarded as being militant because they say we have the right to defend ourselves. If you hit me, I have the right to defend myself. I'm not turning my other cheek. If you hit me, I'm gonna hit you just like you hit me. Okay, so they began to get the attitude of that these are militants. The Nation of Islam would not carry any weapons. It would always have a neat look and did promote unity through military rituals per se. And so it was regarded as being an extremist group. But because it had the power to get people off of drugs, and one day you see somebody hanging on a corner, and the next day you see them in a suit and tie selling a Muhammad Speaks, it was respected. It was highly respected. And so it began to grow here, but basically growing with the membership of the people who had been rejected by the culture. Oddly enough, though, Atlanta, because Atlanta is the home of 6 African American colleges, that Atlanta began to get people from the colleges who were educated coming into the Nation of Islam. And so it began to grow a little faster because it was not, in many places, you didn't trust people who had gone to school in the Nation of Islam. And that's...
But what does that mean, you didn't trust people who went to school?
Well, the Nation of Islam, we were teaching things that were really myths, but we were teaching them as if they were the actual facts. And if you had been to school, you had a problem with these myths being presented as actual facts. So sometimes you would actually cause problems in the ranks. And so, and also, J. Edgar Hoover was sending people into the, if he was sending people into Dr. Martin Luther King's movement, that he had truly infiltrated the Nation of Islam. So we had people that would come in. So where is he going to hire people from? He's not going out to the corner and hiring people. He's hiring people off of the campuses and out of the schools. They have to have some kind of credibility for the FBI to hire you. And that's just the way it works. So many times people were suspect when they came from with an education and a background coming into the Nation of Islam. Atlanta was a little different because we had so many African American schools. There's no other place, no other city in America that has 6 African American colleges in one place, one city. So we would actually end up with people who were educated and they weren't regarded as being suspect or being threats. And so Atlanta grew from that standpoint. But I think the major development, and you have to think about the whole society, is picking up our language. The Nation of Islam is the first people to use the word black. Everybody else is using Negro, colored, and Nation of Islam is using black. And so by the 70s, black had caught on. And so the Nation of Islam was looked at a little differently. But then when Imam Muhammad came in, he changed the terminology of black to the idea of Bilalian, from Bilal, who was the first muezzin, as we hear the call to prayer. And we've been calling the call to prayer here in this masjid for the last 23 years.
Does it go outside in the city?
Yeah, it goes outside.
That's kind of unique in America.
Yeah, I had when we had a little difficulty with our sound system for a couple of days, I had a Christian neighbor come up to me and said, "Reverend, you made me late for work today."
He called you Reverend?
Yeah, he called me Reverend. He said, "Reverend, you made me late for work today because I didn't hear that song." So it's become a part of this neighborhood in this community. We've been here for 34 years now in this neighborhood. We've been at this property for 18 years. But we've been calling this prayer for 23 years, every prayer, 5 times a day.
Right.
And so the community is accustomed to it and looks for it.
And I'm sure someone just come to the door and have to ask,
Yeah.
what does it mean?
And so, yeah, they do. In fact, I had one just 3 weeks ago. We're in, our community is becoming gentrified, so one of the new people had complained to the police officer about the call to prayer. And the police officer was a rookie, and he came to me. I said, well, check with your superior. You know, he said, you got to turn that noise down. I said, well, check with your superior. And so when he checked with his superior, whatever the superior told him, he didn't come back. And so I called to try to find out what happened, and they gave me the email of the person who complained. So I emailed her and told her, well, maybe we can try to redirect our speakers a little bit and everything, but let me give you the meaning of the words that you're hearing. And so my intention was to try to change it a little bit, but I didn't get around to it. And 2 days later, she wrote me, oh, I really appreciate that you have changed the direction of the speakers. And now that I understand the meaning, it's just as beautiful and it makes my day. So I really hadn't changed it yet. My intention was to, but I hadn't. And it's just knowing what's being said. As long as you think something is foreign and strange, but when you realize it's saying God is greater, God is greater, there is no God but God, Muhammad is his messenger of God, come to prayer, come to cultivation. God is greater, there is no God but God. I mean, no one can call that noise anymore. You know. And so Imam Muhammad, when he came into the community as leader, he said, let's call ourselves Bilalian, after Bilal. Let us be the people who are calling the world back to the faith and to the practice that was established by Muhammad the Prophet, praise and peace be upon him. And so for a long time we utilized and tried to propagate the name Bilal as African Americans being Bilalians. But by that time, African Americans had given up black. The issue for Imam Muhammad is that we shouldn't call ourselves black or white, because that's what's separating us, that we're not black and Caucasians are not white, and that this idea further perpetuates the idea of white supremacy and black inferiority. And so we should call ourselves by our cultural names. And so by that time the community had embraced Afro-American, and so we sort of pushed them a little further to African-American. And because that was acceptable to us to remind us of our African heritage and our American background and commitment and reality, then we sort of let the Bilalian go, and we embrace this idea of African American.
Imam, I had asked you a question a bit earlier, talking about Muslims being involved as American citizens here. So I just want to ask you about the involvement of your community in the politics of this county, of the state, and of the whole nation.
Yeah, well, actually, we began to vote as a community in 1976, before Imam Warithuddin Muhammad, as Nation of Islam, we did not vote. We did not participate in the political part. So though Malcolm was very much political and others were, we did not really actively participate. With Imam Muhammad's leadership, that whole idea that you have to be at home somewhere before you can be at home everywhere, that we embraced our obligation and responsibility to be involved in the political process. So we vote. We don't necessarily try to vote as a block per se, but we do express clearly who we believe has ideas